Have you ever stopped and, really wondered why some countries just seem to get rich and powerful while others seem to struggle no matter what?
Yeah, it's a fundamental question, isn't it?
Or even just how does that phone in your hand or the clothes you're wearing, how do they actually get to you from all over the world?
Right. What's the connection between your job, what you do every day, and a whole nation's wealth?
These aren't just like abstract economic questions. They're really about how our world works.
hmm
And today, we're diving deep into where those answers really started.
We are. We're looking at a book that basically turned everything upside down in terms of understanding wealth, often called the Bible of economics.
Exactly. We're talking Adam Smith's huge work, The Wealth of Nations, written, what, almost 250 years ago?
That's right. And the amazing thing is, the core ideas are still so relevant.
So our mission today is to unpack those timeless principles, make these sometimes complex ideas feel simple, and show you how they connect to your life right now.
Revealing those kind of hidden truths behind the economy around us. Let's get into it.
Okay, so Adam Smith, he starts The Wealth of Nations with this really big question. What's the real source of a country's wealth? What was his answer that kind of shook things up?
Well, it's fascinating because he just completely broke from the thinking of the time. Most people back then thought wealth was gold, silver, maybe land.
Right, stuff you can count, tangible assets.
Exactly. But Smith comes along and says, no, that's not it. A nation's true wealth isn't in its vault. It's in the productive capacity of its people.
Productive capacity, so what they can make.
Precisely. The total amount of goods and services everyone in the country produces in a year. That's the real measure of wealth, the actual standard of living.
Okay, so if productivity is the engine, how did Smith say we actually ramp that up? What was his big idea for boosting output?
That leads us straight to probably his most powerful insight, the division of labor.
Division of labor. Sounds simple enough.
It does, but the way he explained it was revolutionary. He used this famous example, the pin factory. Imagine one person trying to make a pin from scratch.
Okay, so drawing the wire, cutting it, sharpening the point.
Right, adding the head, polishing it, all those steps. Smith figured one person doing all that might make maybe 20 pins a day, if they're lucky. Maybe even just one, or none.
Okay, yeah, that sounds tedious and slow.
But then he says, what if you take, say, 10 people and divide up the tasks? One person only straightens wire, another only cuts it, a third only sharpens points.
Specialization.
Exactly. Those 10 specialized workers, Smith observed, could produce something like 48,000 pins in a single day.
Wow, wait, 48,000?
Yeah.
Compared to maybe 20 per person before.
Yeah. That works out to 4,800 pins per person per day. It's this massive, almost unbelievable multiplication of productivity.
Okay, so why? What makes dividing the tasks so incredibly effective? Smith broke it down right.
He did. He gave 3 main reasons. First is skill and dexterity. When you do just one thing over and over, you get incredibly good at it.
Practice makes perfect, basically.
Yeah.
Your hands just know what to do.
Precisely. You become faster, more precise, less error-prone. Think of like a master craftsman.
Makes sense. What's the second reason?
Time saving. If one person does everything, they waste time switching between tasks, putting down one tool, picking up another, maybe moving to a different workstation.
All those little pauses add up.
They really do. With specialization, the worker stays focused, the tools are right there, the work flows smoothly. You eliminate all that wasted transition time.
Okay, skill and time saving. And the third?
The third is maybe the most interesting for long-term growth: innovation and invention. Smith noticed that when people focus intensely on one small part of a process, they're more likely to figure out ways to do it better.
So the person sharpening pins all day might invent a faster way to sharpen them.
Exactly. Or devise a little tool, a simple machine, some clever shortcut. Innovation bubbles up from the workers themselves, making the whole process even more efficient over time.
It's amazing how that pin factory example scales up. You see it everywhere today, like a restaurant kitchen, right?
Perfect example. You don't have one chef doing everything. You've got specialists, grill cooks, sauce chef, pastry chef, prep cooks.
And the waiters, the hosts, everyone has a role. That's why things run smoothly.
Or a car factory. Thousands of people doing tiny, specialized jobs, and a car rolls off the line every few minutes. Even this deep dive we're doing now.
True. Research, writing, recording, editing, different skills, different people.
Smith saw this as the key to societal progress. The more specialized a society becomes, the wealthier it gets. Compare a tiny village where maybe one person does everything to a big city with doctors, engineers, programmers, artists. Endless specialists.
And that specialization forces something else, doesn't it? If you
Yes.
only make pins, you need, well, everything else.
Exactly. Division of labor inherently creates the need for markets. You have to trade. The pin maker needs bread. The baker needs shoes. The shoemaker needs pins. Everyone exchanges their specialized product.
It creates this web of interdependence.
A massive web. And Smith also pointed out something crucial. The size of the market matters.
How so?
Well, you can only specialize deeply if there are enough customers for your specialized product or service. Think about a highly specialized surgeon, maybe for a specific rare condition.
Right, you wouldn't find one in a small town. Not enough patients.
Exactly. But in a huge city, or even globally now, you can have extreme specialists because the market is large enough. That's why Smith stressed infrastructure roads, rivers, ports, they connect markets, allow for deeper specialization, and thus create more wealth.
And today, that market is global. That phone example you mentioned. Parts from everywhere.
Korea, Taiwan, US, China, assembled maybe somewhere else entirely. It's the ultimate expression of Smith's division of labor playing out on a planetary scale.
Okay, this all makes a lot of sense. But it raises a huge question. If you have millions of people all doing their own little specialized thing, who's in charge? Who's coordinating it all?
Ah, yes. If there's no central planner telling the pin maker how many pins to make, or the baker how much bread to bake, how does it all work?
Exactly. How does the right amount of everything magically appear?
This leads us directly to Adam Smith's most famous and maybe most misunderstood concept, the invisible hand.
The invisible hand. It sounds almost mystical. What did he mean by that?
It does sound a bit mysterious, but the idea is actually quite practical. It answers that exact question. How does this complex system organize itself without a central director?
So what drives it? Why does the baker bake bread for me or the farmer grow food? Is it just out of kindness?
Well, here's the counterintuitive part. Smith says, no, it's not primarily out of benevolence or love for society. They do it out of their own self-interest.
Self-interest, so they want to make money.
Exactly. The baker wants to earn a living, feed his family, run his business. The farmer wants to profit from her crops. Their main goal isn't necessarily to serve you, but to serve themselves.
Okay, but that sounds potentially chaotic. If everyone's just looking out for number one, doesn't that lead to problems? Maybe exploitation.
That's the paradox. Smith argued that when individuals operate in a free market, a market with rules, mind you, but minimal interference, and they pursue their own gain, they are unintentionally led, as if by an invisible hand, to promote the overall good of society.
How does that actually work in practice? Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say suddenly everyone in your city wants to eat more tomatoes. Demand shoots up. What happens?
The price of tomatoes goes up.
Right. The higher price is a signal. Farmers see they can make more profit growing tomatoes. So what do they do next season?
They plant more tomatoes. Maybe new farmers even start growing them.
Exactly. They're acting in their self-interest, chasing that higher profit. But the result, more tomatoes become available, the supply increases, and eventually the price comes back down, maybe even lower than before.
And nobody told them to do it. No government agency issued an order.
Precisely. It happens spontaneously. Driven by individual self-interest responding to price signals, the market adjusted to meet the increased demand. That's the invisible hand in action.
So prices are like the signals guiding this whole process.
Yes. Prices are the crucial information carriers. They tell producers what society values and wants more of, and they signal scarcity to consumers, encouraging them to use things wisely. It creates this amazing self-regulating system.
That was a revolutionary idea back then, challenging the norm of governments trying to control everything.
Hugely revolutionary. Smith was essentially saying, laissez-faire, leave it alone, let the market work. Because often it allocates resources more efficiently than any central planner possibly could.
But let's clarify self-interest. Smith wasn't saying just be greedy and selfish, right?
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Absolutely critical distinction. Selfishness often implies hurting others for your own gain. Smith's self-interest operates within a framework. Think about the baker again.
Okay.
If he's purely selfish and sells terrible bread at high prices just to maximize profit today, what happens?
People start buying from him. They go to another baker. His reputation tanks.
Exactly. Competition and reputation matter. To succeed long-term, even out of self-interest, the baker has to provide decent quality at a fair price. The market itself disciplines naked selfishness. So self-interest, channeled by competition, tends to benefit society.
It's kind of like the internet. No one's in charge. People create websites for their own reasons. but the result is this huge, useful network for everyone.
That's a great modern analogy, a decentralized, spontaneously ordered system emerging from individual actions.
But as you hinted, does this invisible hand always work perfectly? What about greed or inequality or monopolies trying to cheat the system?
Excellent points. Smith wasn't blind to these issues, as we'll see later.
And if the market handles so much, what's left for the government to actually do? Which brings us back to prices. How are those signals, the things guiding the hand, actually determined? What gives something its value?
Right, so how do we get those prices that act as signals? Smith dug into this, making a really important distinction between two kinds of value.
Okay, what are they?
First, there's utility value. That's basically how useful something is. Water, for example. Absolutely essential for life, so its utility value is incredibly high.
Makes sense. And the second type?
That's exchange value. This is what you can actually trade something for in the market, its price.
And this leads to that famous puzzle, right? The water-diamond paradox.
Exactly. Water. Super high utility, but usually very cheap, low exchange value. Diamonds. Arguably low utility, mostly decorative, but incredibly expensive high exchange value. Why?
Yeah, why is that? It seems backwards if value is just about usefulness.
To solve this, Smith proposed his labor theory of value. He argued the real value, the underlying cost of anything, is the amount of labor, the toil and trouble required to produce it or bring it to market.
So it's about the human effort involved.
Pretty much. He used an example of a primitive society. If it takes, say, twice as much effort and time to hunt a deer as it does to hunt a boar, then one deer would naturally exchange for two boars. The value is set by the labor. Money, Smith said, is just a convenient way to measure and exchange this underlying labor value.
So when I buy something, I'm essentially paying for the accumulated human effort that went into it.
That's the core idea. You're commanding the labor of others, saving yourself the trouble. It's a profound shift. The economy is built on human effort, not just shiny objects.
But in our complex world, it's not just the worker's labor, is it? What else goes into the price?
Good point. Smith acknowledged that. In a developed economy, he said the price of a good typically breaks down into three parts. First, wages, the payment for the actual labor.
Okay.
Second, profit, the return for the person, the capitalist, who risked their money, bought the machines, organized the production.
The reward for investment and risk.
Right. And third, rent, the payment to the landowner for using their land, whether it's for farming or building a factory on it.
Wages, profit, rent. So the price we pay covers all those costs.
Those three together make up what Smith called the natural price. Think of it as the long-run cost of production, the break-even point.
But the price in the shop changes day to day.
Right.
That's the market price.
Exactly. The market price fluctuates based on immediate supply and demand. If demand for something surges, the market price might shoot up above the natural price.
Which attracts more producers, like the tomato example.
Precisely. High profits draw in more supply, which then pushes the market price back down towards the natural price. If the market price falls below the natural price, producers lose money, some drop out, supply shrinks, and the price tends to rise back up.
So the market price always kind of orbits around that natural underlying cost of production.
It constantly gravitates towards it. And this helps solve the water-diamond paradox. Water is usually abundant and takes very little labor to get, so its natural price and market price is low.
Despite its high utility.
Right. Diamonds, on the other hand, require immense labor finding them, mining, cutting, polishing, and they're rare. So their natural price is extremely high, driving up the market price.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about the scarcity and the effort involved reflected in the price.
And this helps you understand things like why certain jobs pay more. A surgeon's high salary reflects the years of intense labor training invested. It encourages us to see beyond the price tag to the hidden effort.
And that mention of profit brings us back to the capitalist, the investor. That investment money, that capital, seems crucial. Where does it come from, and why is it so central to growing wealth?
You're right. Capital is the linchpin. We've seen how division of labor boosts efficiency and the invisible hand coordinates things, but none of that can happen on a large scale without the essential fuel, capital.
So capital is like the money or resources you need to get started.
Exactly. It's investable wealth money, machines, buildings, raw materials used not for immediate consumption, but to produce more wealth in the future.
And without it, no big factories, no specialized workforce.
Impossible. Think back to the pin factory. The owner needed capital up front to buy the land, the building, the specialized wire drawing machines, the raw wire itself, and, crucially, to pay the workers' wages before any pins were even sold.
Right, you need that initial fund to get things rolling.
Capital is that accumulated stock that enables future production.
So where does it come from? Does it just appear?
Smith was very clear. Capital primarily comes from savings. It's the part of income that people or businesses choose not to spend on consumption today.
So instead of spending everything, you put some aside.
Yes. His example was a farmer. If she harvests 100 bushels of grain, eats 80, and saves 20, those 20 saved bushels are potential capital.
How so?
She could use them as seed for a bigger harvest next year, or maybe trade them with someone to build her a better plow. In either case, she's investing her savings to increase future production. That saved portion becomes capital.
And when this happens across the whole economy, that's capital accumulation.
Exactly. When a nation's citizens and businesses consistently save and then invest those savings productively, building new factories, buying better equipment, funding new ventures, that's capital accumulation. Smith saw saving not just as a personal virtue, but a vital social one. It builds the nation's productive engine.
And this ties into another distinction Smith made, didn't it? Between productive and unproductive labor.
Yes, this was crucial for his theory of growth. Productive labor, for Smith, was work that resulted in a tangible, sellable good that added to the nation's stock of wealth.
Like the factory worker making shoes or the farmer growing food.
Right. Their labor creates something physical that has lasting value and can be reinvested. Unproductive labor, on the other hand, provided services that were consumed immediately.
Like what?
His examples were things like servants, musicians, actors, even government officials or the military. Their services might be valuable, even essential, but they don't directly create a physical product that adds to the national capital stock.
So he wasn't saying these jobs were bad or useless.
Not at all. Just that national wealth, the actual stock of goods, grows faster when more capital and labor are directed towards productive activities that create tangible things.
Okay, so how does this all fit together into a cycle of wealth creation?
It's this amazing upward spiral. An entrepreneur saves or borrows savings from others' capital. They invest this capital productively, build a factory, hire workers. They implement division of labor, making production super efficient.
Which leads to more goods, cheaper.
Right? They sell these goods for a profit. Now, the crucial step, they reinvest a good chunk of that profit back into the business.
To expand, buy better machines, hire more people.
Exactly. More investment leads to more productive capacity, more jobs, even more efficiency, higher profits, which leads to more savings and reinvestment. It's a virtuous cycle.
And this benefits everyone, not just the factory owner.
Smith argued yes. It creates more jobs, makes goods cheaper and more abundant, raises wages over time, and improves the overall standard of living for the whole nation.
So the real path to national wealth isn't hoarding gold. It's this ongoing process of saving, investing productively, and innovating.
Absolutely. It requires patience, hard work, and smart investment. And this whole view was a direct challenge to the economic thinking that dominated Europe at the time.
Which was? What was this old system Smith was arguing against?
He was directly confronting the system known as mercantilism. This was the dominant economic ideology across Europe for centuries before Smith.
Mercantilism. Okay, what was their core belief about wealth?
Fundamentally, mercantilists believed that the world's wealth was fixed, finite, and they measured a nation's wealth by how much gold and silver bullion it physically possessed in its treasury.
So more gold equals richer nation.
Pretty much. And they saw international trade as a zero-sum game. If one country gained gold through trade, another country must have lost it. It was all about competition to hoard the most precious metals.
So how did they try to win this game? What were their strategies?
Primarily two things. First, maximize exports, minimize imports. They thought exporting goods brought gold in, while importing goods sent gold out.
So they wanted a trade surplus at all costs.
Exactly. Governments would subsidize their own industries to help them export, and they'd slap heavy taxes, tariffs, or even outright bans on imported goods to keep foreign products out and old in.
And the second strategy involved colonies.
Yes. Colonies were central to the mercantilist project. Mother countries used their colonies as sources of cheap raw materials and also as captive markets, forcing them to buy the expensive manufactured goods from the home country.
A system designed to funnel wealth, mostly gold and silver, back to the colonizing power.
Precisely. It was all about accumulating bullion.
So Smith comes along and basically says, this is all wrong. How did he pick it apart?
He demolished it, point by point. First, and most fundamentally, he argued, wealth is production, not gold.
As we discussed, it's about the goods and services people actually consume.
Right. He famously asked, "What good is a mountain of gold if your people have no food, no clothes, no houses?" Real wealth is the standard of living, the flow of goods. Gold is just a tool for exchange, a means to an end, not the end itself.
Okay, point one. Wealth isn't gold. What's next?
Second, he argued trade is a positive-sum game, not zero-sum. It's not about winners and losers. Both sides can benefit. Through specialization, just like within a country, he introduced the principle of absolute advantage. Nations should specialize in producing whatever they can make more efficiently at a lower cost than other nations.
So if Portugal is great at making wine because of its climate, and England is great at making textiles,
Then it's foolish for England to struggle to make bad, expensive wine just to avoid importing. They should focus on textiles, sell them to Portugal, and buy Portugal's excellent, cheaper wine.
both countries end up with better wine and better textiles at lower prices.
Exactly. Total wealth increases for both nations. Trade creates new value. It doesn't just shuffle existing gold around.
Which leads directly to his criticism of those import restrictions, right?
Yes, his fourth major point. Tariffs and import restrictions are harmful. They hurt your own citizens.
How so? By making things more expensive.
Yes. When you tax cheap foreign goods, you force your own people to buy more expensive, possibly lower quality domestic alternative. It protects inefficient local producers at the expense of consumers. It interferes with the invisible hand's ability to allocate resources efficiently and basically wastes the nation's efforts.
Let the market find the cheapest, best source, wherever it is.
And that was his argument. Buy from others where they have an advantage and focus your own resources on what you do best.
So the Wealth of Nations was really a powerful call for free trade.
Absolutely. It was a revolutionary manifesto urging governments to tear down trade barriers, remove tariffs and quotas, and allow goods and services to flow freely across borders. He believed this would unlock unprecedented global prosperity. Much of our modern globalized economy is built on that foundation.
It's a total shift in perspective. But if Smith wanted governments to step back from controlling trade and micromanaging the economy, what did he think their job should be? Just do nothing.
That's a really common misunderstanding. Smith was absolutely not an anarchist. He believed government was essential, but he saw its role very differently from the mercantilists.
Not as the main player, but more like an umpire.
Exactly. A guardian or an umpire is a great way to put it. The government's job isn't to run the businesses or control the economy, but to provide the essential framework within which the economy can flourish safely and fairly.
So what specific roles did he see as essential for this guardian government?
He outlined 3 core duties, and they're still remarkably relevant today. First, national defense, protecting the country from external threats, invasion, piracy.
Makes sense. No economy can function amidst war or chaos.
Right. Peace and security are the absolute foundation. Private companies can't really provide this. It's a fundamental public good only the state can ensure.
Okay, defense is number 1. What's 2?
The administration of justice, establishing a fair, predictable, and impartial legal system. This means enforcing contracts, protecting private property rights, and punishing crime and fraud.
Creating a level playing field where people can trust each other.
Precisely. Imagine trying to do business if contracts weren't honored, or your property could be seized without reason. Nobody would invest or take risks. A reliable justice system creates the trust that lubricates the wheels of commerce. The invisible hand needs that backdrop of law and order.
Defense, justice, and the third duty.
The third is providing certain public works and institutions. These are things that benefit the whole society, but which private companies might not provide because they aren't profitable enough, or it's hard to charge everyone who benefits.
Like what sort of things?
Classic examples are major infrastructure projects. Roads, bridges, canals, harbors. These facilitate trade and commerce enormously, benefiting everyone, but it's difficult for a private firm to build a major highway and charge every single user, for instance.
So government steps in for these essential public goods. Anything else under this heading?
Yes, and this is really interesting. Smith also included basic education for the common people under public institutions.
Education. Why did he think that was the government's job?
Because he worried about that potential downside of the division of labor, that doing the same repetitive task all day could make workers intellectually dull, sort of mentally mutilated, as he put it.
Wow, that's quite blunt.
It is. He believed providing basic literacy and numeracy would counteract this, keeping citizens mentally engaged, capable of judgment, and better able to participate in society. It was about creating well-rounded citizens, not just productive workers.
So a limited but crucial role.
Yeah.
Defense, justice, essential public works, including basic education. Beyond that, government should generally keep its hands off the economy.
That was his core argument. No price controls, no picking winners and losers among businesses, no directing investments. Let individuals guided by self-interest and market signals make those decisions. When you argue for better roads or fairer courts or accessible schools today, you're essentially echoing Smith's view of core government functions.
Okay, but these functions, defense, courts, roads, schools, they all cost money. Significant money, which means taxes. What did Smith think about the right way to tax people?
Ah, yes, taxation. A necessary function, but Smith knew it had to be handled carefully, or it could kill the goose that lays the golden eggs, so to speak. Bad taxes could stifle the very economic activity needed to generate wealth.
So he had principles for good taxation.
He did. He laid out 4 famous maxims or golden rules of taxation that are still benchmarks for good tax policy everywhere.
4 golden rules. Okay, let's hear them. What's the first?
The first is equality. This doesn't mean everyone pays the same flat amount. It means taxes should be levied in proportion to a person's ability to pay.
So based on income or wealth?
Generally, yes, based on the income they enjoy under the protection of the state. This is the foundation of progressive taxation. Those who benefit more from the state's protection and have greater means should contribute a larger share. It's about fairness and social stability.
Okay, equality based on ability to pay. What's rule number 2?
Certainty. This is absolutely critical. The amount of tax you have to pay, the time you have to pay it, and the way you have to pay it must be clear, definite, and known in advance.
No ambiguity or arbitrary decisions by tax collectors.
None. Ambiguity breeds corruption and fear. If businesses don't know what their tax bill will be, they can't plan or invest confidently. Smith insisted tax laws must be simple, transparent, and predictable.
Makes perfect sense. Rule number 3.
Convenience. Taxes should be collected at the time and in the manner that is most likely to be convenient for the taxpayer.
How so? Like, don't ask for tax money when people don't have it.
Exactly. For wage earners, deducting tax from the paycheck, PAYE, is convenient. For farmers, collecting land tax after the harvest makes sense. The process of paying should also be easy, simple forms, maybe online filing today. Making tax payment a huge burden discourages compliance.
Right, make it easy to do the right thing. Okay, equality, certainty, convenience. What's the 4th and final rule?
The 4th is economy. This has 2 parts. First, the actual cost of collecting the tax should be as low as possible for the government. You don't want an army of tax collectors eating up a huge chunk of the revenue.
Keep the administration efficient.
Right. But the second, deeper part of economy is that the tax itself should not destroy the source of the wealth. Taxes shouldn't be so high or designed in such a way that they discourage people from working hard, saving, investing, or running a business. You don't want to tax businesses so heavily they just shut down.
So don't kill the incentive to be productive.
Precisely. Keep the burden reasonable and structured in a way that supports, rather than hinders, economic activity.
Wow. Equality, certainty, convenience, economy. Those 4 rules really provide a solid framework for thinking about fair and effective taxation. It shows how carefully Smith considered the relationship between the state and the individual.
He really did. He understood that a good tax system builds trust and supports prosperity, while a bad one breeds resentment and stagnation. Okay, so we've looked at all these pieces. Division of labor, the invisible hand, value, capital, mercantilism, government's role, even taxation. How does it all come together in Smith's final analysis? What is the ultimate source of the wealth of nations?
All right, let's synthesize. We've journeyed through the power of specialization, the magic of the market, self-coordination, the real meaning of value, the engine of investment, the flaws of old ideas, and the proper role of government. So what's the grand takeaway? Smith's ultimate conclusion.
You know, Smith tells us right up front, the very first sentence of The Wealth of Nations basically sums up his entire philosophy, he says. The annual labor of every nation is the fund which originally supplies it with all the necessaries and conveniences of life.
The annual labor, so back to the work people do.
Exactly. For Smith, true wealth isn't gold, it isn't land, it's the constant flow of goods and services that people actually use and enjoy each year. Food, housing, clothes, tools, entertainment. And where does that flow come from? It originates entirely from the labor of the nation's people.
But specifically, as we discussed, it's a productive labor that really counts for building wealth.
Yes, he emphasizes productive labor. That's the labor that creates tangible, sellable goods which add to the nation's stock of capital. Factory workers, farmers, artisans, people making things. He contrasted this with unproductive labor, which provides services consumed on the spot. A nation gets richer, builds its capital base, when a larger proportion of its workforce is engaged in these productive activities.
And how do you boost the output of this all-important productive labor? What are the key drivers?
Smith highlighted two main drivers, which work together. First, you improve the skill and efficiency of the existing productive workers. And how do you do that? Primarily through the division of labor.
Right. Specialization makes each worker vastly more productive.
And the second driver is you increase the quantity of productive workers and give them better tools to work with. How do you do that? Through capital accumulation.
Investing savings to build more factories, buy more machines, and hire more productive people.
Exactly. So deeper division of labor makes existing workers more productive, and capital accumulation employs more productive workers and makes them even more productive with better tools. It's a powerful combination.
And this creates that virtuous cycle we talked about.
Precisely. Savings leads to capital. Capital is invested productively, employing labor using the division of labor. This leads to increased productivity, meaning more goods. Selling these goods generates profits. A chunk of profit is reinvested as more capital. This funds more investment, more jobs, leading to higher living standards for everyone, which potentially allows for more savings, and the upward spiral continues.
It's a dynamic process of growth, fueled by work, saving, and investment.
And what's really central to Smith's vision is the individual. The freedom for people to work, save, invest, innovate, take risks, and reap the rewards of their efforts.
The invisible hand harnesses that individual drive for the collective good.
That's the idea. When people are free, their pursuit of self-interest, guided by the market, generally benefits society, and the government's job is simply to protect that freedom, enforce justice, and provide the stable framework. Too much intervention just messes up this natural, powerful engine of growth.
It's a compelling, optimistic vision. But was Smith maybe too optimistic? Did he see any potential downsides, any cracks in this system? Was he aware of the limits?
That's a really important question, and the answer is yes, absolutely. Smith was a realist, a moral philosopher before he was an economist. Remember, he wrote the theory of moral sentiments first, focusing on empathy and justice. He understood human nature has its darker sides and that the market system wasn't perfect. He definitely saw potential problems.
Okay, so what were some of the limitations or dangers he himself pointed out?
Well, one major concern we touched on was the negative impact of extreme division of labor on the worker's mind. He worried that doing one simple, repetitive task all day, every day could make a person stupid and ignorant, unable to think critically or engage meaningfully in society.
That mental mutilation idea, it's quite stark.
It is. And his proposed solution, remember, was government-funded basic education to ensure workers retain some intellectual capacity and civic virtue. It shows he cared about more than just output figures.
That's fascinating. What else worried him?
He was very wary of the tendency towards monopoly and collusion among businesses. He had that famous line, "People of the same trade seldom meet together." But the conversation ends in a conspiracy against the public, or in some contrivance to raise prices.
Huh. So he knew businesses would try to rig the game if they could.
Absolutely. He understood that while competition is great for consumers, individual businesses hate competition and will always try to limit it to boost their own profits. This implies a need for government vigilance to prevent monopolies and ensure markets remain competitive. He cautioned against governments easily giving in to lobbying from business groups seeking special favors.
So competition needs protecting. Did he see other areas where the market might just fail?
Yes, he recognized market failures in providing essential public goods. Some things, like national defense or maybe large infrastructure projects, or even things we think about today, like basic research or environmental protection, might not be profitable for private companies to provide adequately on their own.
Because you can't easily charge everyone who benefits, or the upfront cost is too huge.
Exactly. In these specific cases of market failure, Smith explicitly said the government should step in. His limited government idea wasn't no government. It was about government focusing on its essential, appropriate roles.
And finally, that moral dimension. How crucial was that?
Utterly crucial. Smith's whole system, especially the beneficial working of self-interest and the invisible hand, relies on a foundation of justice, honesty, and trust.
The system breaks down without it.
Completely. Think about it. If you can't trust banks, contracts, or the quality of goods, the market grinds to a halt. Transactions become too risky. This essential trust doesn't just come from laws. It comes from shared moral values, upbringing, social norms, and a justice system that reliably punishes dishonesty. Smith believed a successful economy required a virtuous society. Wealth and morality weren't enemies, they were allies. That's a lesson maybe we forget sometimes.
It's a much richer picture of Smith than just greed is good. So bringing all this incredible insight into today's world, especially thinking about a place like India, what are the big, timeless lessons from Smith for us right now?
The relevance is huge, honestly, because these ideas deal with fundamental aspects of human behavior and economic organization. They really don't go out of date. They offer a powerful toolkit for thinking about prosperity today.
So what's lesson number one you'd pull out?
For me, the absolute top lesson is the critical importance of economic freedom. Smith showed that when individuals and businesses have the liberty to innovate, to start new ventures, to trade freely, and to keep the rewards of their efforts, prosperity follows.
You can see that in India's own story, can't you? The post-1991 reforms.
A perfect example. Moving away from the restrictive license raj towards more market-based policies unleashed incredible growth in entrepreneurship, lifting millions out of poverty. It's a powerful reminder to keep pushing for policies that make it easier to do business, reduce unnecessary regulations, and empower people.
Okay, economic freedom first. What's the second key takeaway?
The power and necessity of competition. Smith warned us constantly about businesses wanting to kill competition. We need to heed that warning. Competition is what drives innovation, keeps prices fair, and gives consumers like you better quality and choice.
So we need strong antitrust oversight, support for small businesses.
Exactly. Policies that ensure a level playing field, prevent monopolies from abusing their power, and allow new, innovative players to challenge the incumbents. Competition keeps everyone honest and efficient.
Third lesson, probably about trade.
Definitely. Understanding the true benefits of free trade. There's still so much suspicion about imports, so much desire for protectionism. Smith taught us that trade is win-win.
Specialize in what you do best, trade for the rest.
Precisely. Let's focus on India's strengths, like IT services or pharmaceuticals. Export those to the world and import things other countries make better or cheaper, like complex machinery or energy resources. Protectionism just ends up making things more expensive and lower quality for your own citizens.
Makes sense. And the fourth lesson relates to the government's role.
Yes, understanding the limited but vital role of government. Not a controller, but a guardian. We need government to be strong and effective in its core duties. Ensuring justice, protecting property rights, providing that essential infrastructure, maintaining security.
So demanding good governance, efficient courts, reliable infrastructure, that's actually pro-market in Smith's view.
Absolutely. A well-functioning state providing these essentials is the bedrock on which a free market thrives. The demand should be for better government in these core areas, not necessarily more government interfering everywhere else.
And the fifth, and perhaps deepest lesson.
That crucial point about the importance of a moral society. The economy isn't just numbers. It rests on trust, honesty, fairness, and empathy. Things like corruption, tax evasion, cheating customers. They don't just harm individuals, they corrode the foundations of prosperity for everyone.
So being an ethical participant in the economy is actually part of making the system work.
Smith would argue it's essential. Good citizenship and a thriving economy are intertwined. You can't really have one without the other in the long run.
Wow. The wealth of nations really goes far beyond just economics, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost a blueprint for a free and flourishing society.
It really is. It argues that the true source of wealth isn't some finite resource, but the limitless potential of human ingenuity, hard work, and freedom, operating within a framework of justice and morality. It offers a fundamentally optimistic vision for how any nation can build a better future.
Well, if you've journeyed with us through this deep dive, you've really grappled with some foundational ideas that shape our world.
We've covered a lot. From the almost magical productivity boost of dividing labor to the subtle dance of the invisible hand coordinating markets.
To understanding wealth as productive capacity, fueled by capital, unlocked by free trade, and protected by a limited, effective government and a moral society.
Hopefully this gives you a new lens to see the world through. When you go shopping, see a factory, read about trade deals, maybe you'll spot these underlying Smithian principles at play.
So here's a final thought to take away. In your own daily life, your work, your choices as a consumer or maybe even an entrepreneur, how can you contribute to that invisible hand working well? And maybe, what small things can you do to strengthen that moral fabric of trust and fairness that Adam Smith believed was so vital for true, lasting prosperity?